Hello humans and welcome to another edition of Chef Mike Does Stuff. This is episode 8. We are going to be making shepherd's pie. Now, one of the great things about this is, once again, I'm probably not going to give you a real recipe. I'm just going to show you how to make it and assemble it. I don't know what size pan you have. I don't know what ingredients you have. But if you understand how to make a shepherd's pie, you can use what you have at home to make it yourself. So let's go ahead and get to the cutting board. It's going to be super fun, super easy. You just layer a bunch of stuff in a pan and cook it. I hope you enjoy me mumbling through this. So let's get to the board. All right, so we're at the board. So now shepherd's pie traditionally is usually like ground lamb cooked with some broth and a little raw flour to make kind of a sauce mixed with vegetables, put in a pan and top with mashed potatoes. We're going to do it a little simpler today. I'm using ground beef. I'm using some frozen vegetables that I had. I'm using some carrots and onions that I sauteed, and we're going to make that sauce a little bit easier. So the first thing we're going to do in this big bowl, I'm adding tomato paste, like so. Very, very easy. Next, I'm going to add beef broth. Now, this is the part where a lot of times you will brown the meat. You will add a little flour or something to the ground beef to cook that out a little bit so that when this cooks and you add vegetables and all the other stuff to it, it kind of thickens a little bit. You can use a whisk. I'm using a spoon because I'm assuming that you don't want to get a whisk dirty. Perfectly fine. Everyone makes fun of me about how simple and easy I'm doing things because I'm a chefy type. But hey, I'm trying to introduce this to people who might not really know how to cook at home very much. So that's why we are going the easy route. And look there's little bits of tomato paste that aren't really mixed all the way through. Don't care. Doesn't matter to me. Now, instead of using flour, what I'm going to use is actually a little bit of cornstarch. So what's happening now is when this cooks, this will thicken the sauce up just a little bit more, and that will give you a little more creamy, kind of nice, tasty little dish on the bottom. So maybe I'll add just a touch more. You really don't need a lot. The other thing that we're doing here is we didn't add a whole bunch of beef broth to it just because we didn't want to make it too thin. And we're going to see how much of this base we're actually going to use. So we got that. I'm going to add a good sprinkling of granulated garlic or garlic powder or fresh garlic or whatever you want. I'm going to add a good bit of salt. Now, if you're topping this with mashed potatoes that has a lot of salt in it already, just be mindful. I'm going to add some black pepper because I like black pepper. And I'm going to add a little ground thyme. Now, you can use fresh thyme. You can use whole dried thyme. You could use whatever herbs that you want. I'm not going too heavy on that. Okay. Give it a quick stir. And now we've got our little sauce base here. Look, I still got some tomato paste on the spoon. Don't care. Doesn't matter. Next, I have 1 pound of lean ground beef. And what I did too, instead of browning it and straining it, I've got some sauteed vegetables that I use, like the rendered fat from the beef in the pan, to saute with. So you didn't even have to add butter or oil or anything. Pound of ground beef. Next, my sauteed veg. I've got onions, I've got carrots. Use whatever vegetables you have on hand or whatever you want. You don't even necessarily have to saute them. Like so. Frozen peas and corn. I've done absolutely nothing to it other than pull them out of the freezer. That's very traditional in shepherd's pie, is the peas and corn. Now I'm just going to take this, mix it all together as our base. If you like it a little more soupy or runny, add a little more liquid. If you like it drier, you certainly don't need to add as much. Now we still got frozen vegetables. We've got onions, so there's still moisture in this. So I'm not worried, even though it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of sauce. I'm not looking for it to be real soupy or saucy on the bottom of this pan. Next, I've got a pan here. I'm going to add a bunch of this to the pan. Let's see here. Oh, look at that. It just so happens to be almost a perfect amount, and I just eyeballed it. That's magical. Okay, so this is the base. Get in there, piece of corn. I am pushing it down relatively hard just because I don't want all these little air gaps and everything when it cooks. Okay. Once again, you can use any kind of ground meat you have. You could make this vegetarian and just use a bunch of chopped up vegetables. Whatever you have on hand, that's the magic of this dish here. I'm going to get a spoon just in case. But the next and fun part is I've got some mashed potatoes here. As you can see, I put it in a Ziploc bag. In just the corner of the Ziploc bag, I'm going to take some scissors. Don't let that fall on your food. And now I've got a little piping bag. So what I'm going to do is simply cover this bad boy in mashed potatoes like so. Some people will put an egg in the mashed potato to let it kind of stand up a little more than normal. It kind of sets up. It looks real nice. Some might brush it with butter over the top. You can totally do that as well. But I'm going this route. I squeeze a bunch of potatoes in there. Now get yourself a spoon. You could totally move it around like so. Easy peasy. Those mashed potatoes on the top are going to get nice and brown. You could totally melt some butter and put it all over the top if you so desire. I'm probably not going to do that just because I already make my mashed potatoes with lots of butter in them. So these are going to be creamy and delicious. And look at that! It's done. All we have to do is bake it and eat it. So we're going to finish cooking this. I'll open her up and let's see what it looks like on the inside when it's done. All right, people. First of all, I have 3 things to admit. Maybe it's 2, but it's 3. First of all, I now have a lav mic, so I don't know if you could hear me better, but my microphone is now, I don't know if I could get it shot on my jacket, so hopefully you can hear a little better. Secondly, I totally forgot to put Worcestershire sauce in this bad boy. Had it out, had a little container over at the side. Did not put it in, but please, it's delicious, but I'm still going to eat it. I'm sure it's still great. Third, the ground beef I used was actually leftover from this huge burger that I made, the cow tipper, in honor of Kevin Smith and me hopefully being in a Kevin Smith movie. I digress, but that is the ground beef I used for this, so just let you know that I'm not wasting anything. So, without further ado, let's see what this looks like on the inside. Baked it for an hour. I let it cool for about 15 minutes so I don't melt my face off. Here we go. Okay. You see how it kind of cuts out in little pieces like so, like a lasagna. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, that sounds delish. Oh, yeah. I'm going to flip it upside down. So, that's what the top looks like. There's everything on the inside. Usually you don't flip it over, but I wanted you to see. I made a mess. I'm going to eat it. So that's it. That is shepherd's pie done the Chef Mike Does Stuff way, where you utilize whatever the heck you have. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, tweet, post, all that goofy stuff YouTubers tell you to do, because you are not going to want to miss when Chef Mike does stuff. I'm going to eat this for lunch and dinner. That's good. I bet that Worcestershire sauce would be really